Hello everyone, a warm welcome to Pakistan Dream in 2022. Myself Ranjani Janardhanan and I will be presenting large data volume best practices today. Before we start, I would like to thank all the coordinators and sponsors of Pakistan Dream in for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Thank you team. About myself Ranjani Janardhanan and I am working as a solution architect at UST. I am a Salesforce certified system and application architect. Also, I am a community speaker. You can ping me in Twitter or LinkedIn even after the session and I will be happy to help you. Moving on to the agenda of today's session. Today I will be talking about what is LDV or large data volume in Salesforce and what are the large data volume impacts and LDV management key factors. What is LDV? Each record in Salesforce will consume approximately 2 KB of storage space. Of course, there are some exceptions. And any object which is expected to have more than 5 million can be considered as an LDV. As an architect, at some point of your project, you will need to handle LDV. So it is always better to be ready with a plan in advance. Let's see what are the LDV impacts. If you have large data volume, it will slow down the CRUD operations, it will slow down the standard search functionality, it will slow down the list views, reports and dashboards, and your sandbox refresh will take a longer time, and there are high chances of hitting governor limits, and there is always chances for data skew issues like ownership skew, account skew, and lookup skew. We can divide LDV scenarios into 3 and for each category we have different types of solutions in Salesforce. Let's see what are the 3 categories. The first one is the large volume data is in an external system and you need to only view that data as part of Salesforce. And the second one is LDV data gets created or needs to be stored inside Salesforce. And the third one is you need to migrate large data volume into Salesforce. Let's see each category in detail. So the first one is bring LDV data into Salesforce without storing. That means the LDV data is only meant for viewing in Salesforce. So we have two options. First one is mashups and the second one is external objects. Let's see each one in detail. So the first one was mashups. You can either display the external website inside Salesforce UI or with the help of Apex, you can use web services and LWC or Visualforce pages to bring and display the information from external system into Salesforce real time. Because of the real-time restrictions, mashups are limited to short interactions and small amounts of data. Let's see the advantages and disadvantages of mashups. Advantages are data will never be stale and you don't need to develop any proprietary method to integrate the two systems. The advantages are accessing data takes more time and the functionality will be reduced. You cannot do any kind of reporting or automation on the external data. The second solution for this category was external objects, which means there is no need to bring data into Salesforce. With a data tiering strategy that spreads data across multiple objects and brings it in on demand from another object or external store, you avoid both storing large amount of data in your org and the performance issues associated with LDV. External objects are similar to custom objects except they map to data that's stored outside your Salesforce organization, enabling your users and the Force.com platform to search and interact with the external data. By accessing record data on demand, external objects always reflect the current state of the external data. You don't have to manage a copy of that data in Salesforce, so you are not wasting storage and resources, keeping the data in sync. External objects are best used when you have a large amount of data that you can't or you don't want to store in your Salesforce org and you only need to use a small amount of data at any one time. An external data source specifies how to access an external system. Salesforce Connect uses external data sources to access data that is stored outside your Salesforce organization. Files Connect uses external data sources to access third-party content systems. External data sources have associated external objects which your users and the Force.com platform use to interact with the external data and content. Let's see some of the external object features. You can create relationship fields in external objects, and with relationship fields you can link an object to an external object or you can link two external objects. Two-way integration is possible via writable external objects, and with external objects you can also report on the external data. We have covered the options for viewing the external LDV data without storing in Salesforce. Now let's see the options for managing LDV if you need to create and store inside Salesforce. As the data gets created in Salesforce, the volume grows up and becomes an LDV. We need to have a short-term LDV management plan and a long-term LDV management plan. Let's see some of the short-term LDV management features in Salesforce. First one is skinny tables. Salesforce can create skinny tables to contain frequently used fields and to avoid joins. This can improve the performance of certain read-only operations. Skinny tables are kept in sync with their source tables when the source tables are modified. Next one is indexing. There are standard and custom indexes available in Salesforce. Fields like record type ID, record ID, email, and name are indexed by default. You can get custom indexes to speed up the queries by contacting Salesforce customer support. Next is Query Optimizer. Query Optimizer helps you to get effective queries by providing efficient data access in Salesforce. Next is long-term LDV management options. We have big objects. Big objects is something within Salesforce itself. And the second one is we can make use of off-platform storage like Heroku Connect, or we can use any other external data warehouse systems. Let's see both the options in detail. First one is big objects. Big objects can store and manage a massive amount of data in Salesforce. We can recommend big objects for anything over 20 million rows into billions. And big objects can help batch process large sets of data and aggregations using asynchronous SOQL. And it also helps to analyze big data with operational reports or Tableau CRM. Big objects are not automatically visible in the UI, but we have some other options. They can be exposed in a Lightning component or Visualforce page using Apex, SOQL, and primary keys. Typically, a smaller subset of data and aggregations is queried using asynchronous SOQL and stored in a custom object. This will allow the subset to be displayed anywhere in the UI. Another option is to connect the entire dataset to Tableau CRM, which offers great reporting tools. Next option is Heroku Connect. Heroku Connect provides a bridge between Salesforce and the Heroku Postgres database. If you want to keep data in both the Salesforce and Heroku Postgres database, you can use data replication strategy. Data replication with Heroku Connect can be one-way or two-way. Data replication from Heroku Postgres to Salesforce can be configured to execute with very low latency but not in real time. If you don't need to store any data in Salesforce, you can proxy the data from Heroku Postgres database into Salesforce using Salesforce Connect external objects. Remember that certain features of Salesforce aren't available with Salesforce Connect. I'm not going into the details of that because it is beyond the scope of this presentation. Here are some points to guide you on when to use Heroku. You can suggest Heroku if you are using a business to consumer app that can potentially change the data stored in Salesforce. If you want to sync data between Salesforce and Heroku Postgres database, if you want to store fewer than 20 million records per object, or if you want to automate business logic with tools like Process Builder, Flows, Validation Rules, and Apex Triggers with the large data volume data. Instead of using Heroku Connect and Postgres database, you can also make use of external data warehouse systems to archive your large data. I just consolidated all the points that we discussed till now in a flow chart to make it easy for you to take the key decisions on LDV strategy, and hope this will be helpful. Now let's check the third and last category, that is you want to do a migration of large data volume into Salesforce. So what are the best practices when you have to migrate large data volume into Salesforce? First, you have to decide the approach based on the record count, whether it is going to be a one-time load or you have to do it in phases. And make sure no governor limits are hit during the data migration. Turn off all the automation so that the data migration will be faster. And you can make use of bulk API and defer the sharing calculations to complete the data migration faster. You can recalculate the sharing once the data migration is complete. Make sure to group the records by parent ID, which will also help to complete the data migration faster. With that, I am concluding today's session. You can find some of the references that I used for preparing the session. Once again, thank you, and let me know if you have any questions.